Hi, Professor Schmer here. I received a homework question from a student about homework 7, questions 24 through 27. So I want to really quickly go over the skills needed in these homework questions. And all 4 of those homework questions are about finding local maximums or minimums, or the plural would be maxima and minima, and finding a good viewing window on your calculator. So on question 24, homework 7, it says graph y equals x cubed plus 4x squared plus 9 on a window that shows a local maximum and a local minimum. So I'm going to go to my y equals, clear out any functions that you have there, and we'll go ahead and put in our x cubed plus 4x squared plus 9. Okay, now look at your multiple choice options. They give you these numbers in brackets below each graph, and those are telling you your x minimum, x maximum, and x scale. So I noticed that all 3 of those options have an x minimum of -5, an x maximum of +5, and a scale of 1. So on my calculator, I go to Window, and I'm going to put in -5 for x min, 5 for x max, and 1 for the x scale. Now, the different graphs have different y windows. I'm going to go ahead and try the first one. 0 for y min, 30 for y max, and 1 for the y scale. So I'll try that one out. 0, 30, and 1. And then hit graph. And that actually matches up really well. So I think that that might be the right one. But what we can do is just make sure that it's not supposed to be graph D. We know we've got the correct direction in either A or D. And so let me go back to my window, try out the window that graph D gives, which is a y minimum of -30, a y maximum of 0, and a scale of 1. Yeah, that does not match up at all when I look at the graph on my calculator versus graph D. So I'm going to go back to the window from graph A, y min of 0, y max of 30, scale of 1. And I know that that's going to be the right graph. I can see a maximum and I can see a minimum on that graph. Okay, so now they ask for a local maximum. And to find this in your calculator, you do not want to just trace. You want to actually calculate the maximum. So I'm going to go to second, trace, and that gets me to the calc menu, because anytime I hit the second key, it brings me to the blue lettering. So because I want a maximum, I'm going to select number 4. And notice what the calculator is asking me for. It wants a left bound. So I want to get my cursor to the left of the maximum and then hit enter. Now it asks for a right bound. So I use my right arrow to get to the right of the maximum and I hit enter. Now the calculator is saying, guess, do you want me to guess? And I hit enter because I do. And that's going to give me my maximum. And it says round to the nearest hundredth, which is 2 decimal places. So I'll go ahead and put in the -2.67. X value always gets listed first. And then the Y value is 18.48. Okay, perfect. You would not get that if you just hit trace on your calculator. You want to actually go to second, trace, and that gets you to your calc menu. The next part of the problem asks me for a minimum, so I'm going to select number 3. And I need to get to the left of my minimum, but somewhat close. Hit enter. Get to the right of the minimum, enter, and now hit enter for guess. Now this gives me scientific notation, 9.4401 capital E negative 7. That E negative 7 is actually telling me it is 10 to the negative 7th power, which means that that 9, that digit does not start until the 7th spot after the decimal place. So this number is actually 0.00000094401, which is essentially 0. So I'm going to go for my minimum. I'm going to say, okay, X is 0 and Y is 9. So again, to get the maximum or a minimum, you go to second trace, and that gets you to your calculate menu. All right, so that was question 24. 25 is similar, except they don't give you a window to start with. So you have to play around with your calculator on your own until you find a good window. First step is putting that equation in for your y equals. So we have x to the 4th minus, and I left out the minus, so minus 8x cubed plus 22x squared minus 24x plus 9. Okay, great. So for the window, I could just randomly guess, but first what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to Zoom, and I'm going to select Zoom Fit, which I think is 0. Yes, Zoom Fit is 0, so I'm going to go to Zoom Fit. And I can see that that's zoomed in too far on the graph. I can't actually see a local maximum. So what I'll do is I'll come to my window and try out something different. So I might go negative 10 to 10 for my x's. And then I might just try negative 10. And I noticed my y max when I did the Zoom Fit. My y max is really large, which tells me maybe I need a large y value. But what I'm going to start with is trying out maybe 100 and then a scale of 10. Okay, so this actually gives me a good complete graph. But what I want to do is I want to be closer in on the part of the graph where I see the minimums and the maximum, or the minima and the maximum. So I'm going to actually come back to my scale and make my y maximum 10, I think. So I'm going to go y minimum negative 10, y maximum positive 10, y scale is 1. Okay, there we go. That's good. And what I might do is just zoom in on that part of the graph. So I'm going to hit zoom. I'll go to Z box. And I'm just going to make a box. I get my cursor up to where I want the corner of my box to be. Hit enter. And I'm going to make a box around the part of my graph that actually has the maximum and the minima. Okay, and hit enter. Now I have a really clear vision of what I'm looking at. So now I want to find the local maximum, and I do that by hitting second trace and selecting number 4. I only have one maximum, so I get to the left of that maximum, hit enter, get to the right of the maximum, hit enter one more time. And then they say type in ordered pair. If you get 1.99999, you can safely assume that the actual value is 2. Your calculator is using technology that lets it kind of zero in on that maximum. But when it gives you something with a bunch of 9s after the decimal, what that usually indicates is that the actual whole number value is 2. So I'm going to put in a 2 and y is 1. Okay. And now they want the two minima. So I have to do these separately. I go second trace. I want a minimum. So I'm going to focus on the left one first. I go to the left of that minimum, hit enter, go to the right. Notice I'm only focusing on that left-hand minimum. Hit enter for guess. And so my first minimum is at 0.99999. So I'm going to say that's essentially 2. And then we get the scientific notation for y. Y equals 1 e negative 12, which is basically 0. That means that it's the digit of 1 does not occur until the 12th spot after the decimal place. So that's my first minimum. And now I have to repeat the process for the second one. So now I want to focus on that right-hand minimum. Get your cursor to the left of that right-hand minimum, and then to the right of that right-hand minimum. Hit enter, and so we're going to get x is 3, y is 0. Again, we have that scientific notation. And it says that that is wrong, so let me look at what might have gone wrong. My first x value for that left-hand minimum, I believe that was a 1, not a 2. I believe I typed that in wrong. Let me go back and we'll do that real quick. So I'm getting to the left of that left-hand minimum, to the right of that right-hand minimum, and then enter. Yes, that first x value was supposed to be a 1. Perfect. Okay, so that's what you do when you are trying to find local minima and maxima. You get a good window so that you can actually see the maximum and the minimum, and then you use your second trace and then select either maximum or minimum. And remember, if you get like 1.0000004, that's essentially just 1. Your calculator is estimating a little bit. And so you can go ahead and assume that that's an actual whole number. Same with 0.999999. That's essentially 1.